Hello and welcome to another episode of Moments with Sade and Enoch on Jambo Radio. My name is Enoch and Sade could not join us today, but we've got our wonderful guest who is going to double up for himself and Sade. So welcome, Stephen.
Hello, Enoch. No pressure on.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. It's just we need the hair to come to really do that Sade and Stephen show.
Okay.
And on today's show we'll be talking to Stephen about planning for the future, from a financial perspective. But before we continue, just to bring you guys into the studio with us, if you want to join us, you can call the number 0141 530 2787, or you can WhatsApp us on 0745 990 6822. If you're on Facebook, we are on Jambo Radio Scotland. If you prefer Twitter or X, we are at Jambo Radio 1. And if you're on Instagram, we are at jamboradio.scotland. And if none of those work for you and you want to go a bit old school, you can send us an email. We are at info@jamboradio.co.uk. There you have it. You've got all different ways you can reach out to us. And so we brought Stephen into the studio today to talk about where we are as a community when it comes to planning for the future financially. So I did some research to get myself ready for the show, and what I found was black people are less likely to have a will written in the UK. The focus is on the UK. Black people are less likely to have life insurance, and you probably are maybe familiar with this from what you do for work. And just black people are less likely to have, general financial products, around coverage and even pension. So, Stephen, who is a principal director at Vivid Financial Solution, which is going to tell us more about, will be sort of sharing with us some of the things we should consider having, or some of the systems or coverages and products we should potentially consider having in place as individuals or as families, just to prepare for what if. I mean, we are very, as a community, we are a very religious set, either you're Christian, Muslim, or whatever it is, and we believe that there's a higher power looking after us, and because of that, some of us sort of veer away from this concept of writing a will or having life insurance, because we believe it goes against our spiritual beliefs. But hopefully, Stephen can dive a bit into that, and we can have some interesting conversations. Stephen, would you agree?
Absolutely. Let's go. I'm ready for this.
Fantastic. So, Stephen, before we dive into the juicy bit, the audience or our audience will want to know more about who you are. So, can you describe Stephen Babatunde in 30 seconds without talking about what you do for work?
Okay, brilliant. Stephen Babatunde is human to start with. I grew up in
that has to be said because these days
you never can tell.
You cannot tell.
So yeah, I grew up in Nigeria. Moved to the UK many years ago. So this is home now, and I'm a father and a husband as well. So, and I'm a community man. I like to call myself that, and that's me.
Fantastic. I love that one. Community man. So what does that mean?
I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere within my local support system.
Okay.
So that is, I'm everywhere and I'm anywhere to basically to add value to people. Okay. So that is me.
Everywhere, anywhere. You're already becoming omnipresent.
No, we are in that crown.
And your name, Stephen Babatunde. So I'm always interested in names and their meaning. So, and also maybe our audience will be interested as well. So Babatunde, what does that mean in plain English?
Yeah, it's simply it means reincarnation. So one father dies, a male child passes away, and at the same time or around the same time you now give birth to a male child. So it's just like, oh yeah, we've not really lost anything, so it's back.
Baba, so Baba is father. Tunde is returned or something. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I've always thought about it, so I'll ask you now. Is there a timeline to it? So let's say Baba or grandfather dies in January 2022. and a baby is born February 2025, so 3 years gap. Can that still be Babatunde?
Well,
Is there a point where you say you can't use that name anymore?
Yeah, well, anything I say as an answer will just be my own thought.
Yes.
Because I don't know. All I knew was that a male child after I don't know what's the timeline. So my own take is a male child born after the passing of a male grandpa or whatever. Yeah, it's named that. So timeline I cannot tell you. I don't know.
So you've got a bit of assignment for whenever it is we invite you back to the studio. We're going to ask you that again, and so maybe go ask the forefathers or wherever for them to give you some answers, so you can come share with us and our audience.
Ancestors.
Yeah, consult the ancestors. So, Stephen, you've said it that you grew up in Nigeria and you relocated to the UK. So do you want to paint a picture for us about your life in Nigeria before you came to the UK? What were you doing? Were you working, or were you a young boy or young man? What was life like before relocating?
Yeah, I'm still a young man to start with. So
yes, you are.
So back in Nigeria, I started my I was in 100-year in university before I relocated to the UK. So back in Nigeria, of course, primary, secondary education, and also moving on to becoming an entrepreneur. I actually I took after my dad being an engineer, what we call technician.
Okay.
Back in the days, radionic, if you put it that way. So I took after him, and I learned the trade and qualified in Nigeria.
Okay.
So
sorry. So you were at the university 100 years.
Yeah.
So did you stay at the university, or you left university to learn radionic? Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So between the Nigerian factor, you have to go through Jambo and waiting for your.
So while you were waiting, right.
Okay. I was doing that, and before that, actually, so I left secondary school, went to technical college.
Okay.
Before university. So during my time at technical college, the evening time is when you go and learn the practical of the trade. That was when I picked up the radionic repairs of electronics, and I was this freedom ceremony, as they call it. So and I opened a little shop. So I've been doing business for a while. I used to run the Alaba scenario, goods from Alaba to Osun State, where I based, where I was with my family at the time. So and
discovering new things. Okay, that's interesting. So, and do you still have? Do you reckon you still have that skill set till today? The ability to sort of fix electronics generally.
That will never leave me. In fact, so that's when I moved to the UK. That happens to be one of my pocket money, the source of my pocket money, because I fix anything electronics, from broken TV to broken radio. And when the Xbox came to be a thing, I made a lot of money fixing the death of ring of death, as it was called back then. So I still do. I still fix things now. Wow. I'm still a handyman.
Wow, interesting. And you're a business owner now as well.
Absolutely.
So you came to the UK. So you did all that in Nigeria. Then eventually you go into university 100 years. Not 100 years. 100 level. Year one, you completed first year.
Year one.
And then relocated to the UK.
Yeah.
Did you come straight to Scotland or England first?
Straight to Scotland.
Okay, straight to Scotland. Okay, and continued your degree, or what were you doing at that point?
So came to the UK, and then I went to the college actually.
Okay.
So went to my local college at West Lothian, and finished from the college ND, as it is called, if that is right. So 2 years. And then moved to Edinburgh University to do my degree in engineering management.
Wow, okay. So you stayed in that sort of engineering line. Okay, fantastic. And then you finished that, and did you then eventually go start a career in that field, or where did you go after uni?
After uni, so I worked as a process engineer for a number of companies for close to 12 years. Okay, wow. Moving from process engineering to project engineer, and also to construction management as well. So a lot of transferable skills. So moved to construction, and then before I decided to look for a greener pasture, which we will come to.
Fantastic. That's interesting. So our previous guest as well was an engineer. So it seems there's a recurring engineering theme going on. I'm just trying to think if you think alike around that process driven thing, right? So 12 years did that, and then you just woke up one day and said, I'm not doing this anymore, I want to do something else. How did you go from that to starting what is now Vivid Financial Solutions?
Yeah, brilliant question, and thanks for that. So that always takes me back. Every opportunity I have to talk about the transition, I take it, and because I want people to see what is possible. So leaving the engineering path to move to the finance, it's more of what you would call personal experience, which I think, when you find a gap and you think something could be better. Again, I always relate back to my engineering years, because you're always looking to fix problem. Not just only in engineering, I think most people, but that for me, my experience securing some of this financial product that we're going to talk about, and also getting my first property wasn't a pleasant one. And I got curious what it takes, and I started more like asking, soul searching, and thinking, how many people are going through this? What was the problem? Was it because I couldn't understand what's been said, or I'm not, the right language is not being used for me, or just my impatience? So yeah, it took a while, almost 2 years in making, before I made the decision to pursue this industry. Yeah.
Fantastic. So 2 years to decide to pursue it. So not 2 years to study or to learn. Okay. Yeah. And then after 2 years, like, right, I'm doing this. Yeah. And that was you going from being an engineer essentially to going into financial services, as you call it. Okay. And so what did you do? How did you go about that?
Yeah. So the decision was, the first thing was to look for someone within the industry to get to know. So two things were happening at the same time. So number one, I'm looking to add more value to. I'm not being cocky, but it's always, my purpose is always to add value to people.
There's nothing cocky about it. You shouldn't even say that before saying that. You should just say it, because if that's your purpose, that's your purpose, all right? So you should own it.
Absolutely. So adding value, and it doesn't mean that value were not added in my previous career. So taking my personal experience of getting financial product and looking at, so how can that be better? So look for someone within that sector. At the same time, my job as an engineering was becoming, of course, the higher you go, the more demand placed on you, especially within the construction industry, traveling a lot and away from home and all that. So looking to strike the right balance. But the really push is to change people's experience when it comes to securing financial product, whatever the barrier is. So look for a mentor. Fortunately, a big brother of mine down south works in the industry, still there now, doing very well. So what does it take? How should I go about it? I knew nothing about it, my background. And then they talked me through the process. Well, to start with, you start from insurance, that gets you going. You don't need much training, not much certification, but continuous and intensive in-house training. And then we talk about the career path, what is possible. And again, the scary part was that you're going to be just self-employed. You're going to have to make your own living.
Yeah, yep.
So, and that was it. It took time to get my head around that. But this is where I go spiritual sometimes, in the sense that the push was just constantly there. You're going to be all right, because the need is there, and you are providing a service and adding value. So my mentor and speaking to the right people helped me making that solid decision to go into it. And ultimately, I kickstart the process with my very good friend that Lee Flanagan. So yeah, and that was, the rest is now history.
How many years ago now? Since
4 years now.
4 years. Wow,
Yeah.
fantastic. And I'll put this out there as well. I've engaged you a few times as well on some of the things I've done. So well done. It's a success story, because the previous guests were talking about failure and embracing failure, and we're glad that worked out. But at the same time, that could have gone a different way. But you stepped out anyway. So, and I think it's that confidence to just step out anyway, knowing that I'm hoping this will work. Because one of the things in our community is people letting fear rule their judgments. So rather than letting hope rule their judgment, and I don't mean hope just vague hope. I mean, data and hope. Like statistically, this should work. And then you go with a bit of faith and you go into it, rather than statistically this could work, but at the same time statistically this could not work. And because of that, I'm not taking that step. So it's been amazing that you started it, because I've benefited from it, and I'm sure a lot of people as well, including those within the Black community, have benefited as well. So well done.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well done. And the point you made around adding value, when I see some of your posts on LinkedIn, where I'm sure you must be one of the happiest people in the world, right? When you get that text message or that picture of people holding their key, almost nothing beats that, right? Because you're earning an income and you're making someone happy. It's like the perfect place to be. You're not just earning an income; someone is benefiting from you earning an income. So it's a happy place, right? Let's not get emotional. So. The way I want to approach the conversation today is around, there are some products and some things people especially within our community, the Black community, we don't really sort of veer into. And I've had some conversations with you as well about some of these things, things like will writing, life insurance and all that. But before I go into, because I'm sure you're about to share some reasons why you should get this and what the benefits are. But before we go into that, and I'm not putting you on the spot or anything, can you share a story with us that anybody listening can maybe empathize with and see why these things are important? Is there any story that you can maybe randomize without us necessarily knowing who the person is?
I mean, as part of the privacy anyway, I won't be mentioning any names. So a very good friend of mine, known him for many years, it was the only one in the UK, no family. Met him when I moved up to Scotland working it was my manager in KFC. We became a very close friend. So I think about 5 years before he died, he was having some health issues, coughing.
And this friend, if you don't mind, a bit of background, is he from the Black community or non-Black community?
From the Black community,
okay. And he grew up in a majority Black country as well, like Africa, Caribbean. Okay, so there's all that. It came with all that thinking as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So known him for that many years. So he was having difficulty. He coughed a lot, and he was never a smoker. So the health checkup and whatnot started. So eventually the diagnosis was that he need lung replacement. He need his lung replaced. But that was the diagnosis. But his lungs were not bad enough because you have that many people.
Jump him on the waiting
list. That's right. So it wasn't bad enough to really get him prioritized basically. So he had to wait. And the sad story, the sad ending was the fact that by the time his lungs were bad enough, his health were not. He said he couldn't go through the operation, and he died. And he died. So that was. I have many instances like that. That was a friend, and of course I have the issue of a client. Being fortunate, again, a client, a Scottish client, a white client, I should say. Not even 4 months into listening to my advice and taking out critical illness cover on the mortgage, she was diagnosed with a brain hemorrhage. She's alive, but the worry about paying mortgage is no more. because insurance, the right insurance, and that cleared the financial burden. So I could go on and on.
Fantastic.
But,
So going back to the story of your friend, so what was the sad bit in there? Was it the case that he didn't have any protection, or what was the? Yep.
Yeah, the punch on me at that point was the fact that Adin Bain, he had some protection in place. The likes of the extra benefit that comes with a lot of the protection policy, like the second medical opinion.
Yep.
He could have used that to probably check this condition, this condition, and also, is there anything else other than the surgery that could have been useful? It's like a second opinion.
Yep.
That is what is called a professional. And also, if my friend had an insurance at that point, probably depending on what sort of insurance, he might have been able to even seek a private treatment. So a number of products, probably a private treatment to help, and probably will still be with us, we don't know. And different product out there, it could even have, if he had an insurance that we allow him to be flown out of the country for treatment, the options could have been there.
Multiple options.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing such a personal and touching story. And hopefully, again, I was just thinking, let's share something real, something human before we dive into this is why you should get this. So the first one I was going to touch on or jump into was will writing. So people don't write will. And I guess one of the reasons, you must have conversations with people, right? But from my thinking and from the few conversations I've had myself, one of the reasons why they don't write will is I'm too young. I'm just in my 30s. Why do I need a will? Because when we're growing up, will is written by men in their 60s and 70s with maybe complicated life.
Yeah.
You've got brothers that could come take your property, things like that. So you want to protect your family, so you write a will. So is that thinking, is that logical, or are we missing the point around what a will is?
Yeah, we are missing the point on a lot of things. And to start with, on the will thing, is the concept of the moment you start doing these things, it's like you are counting your day to death.
Yeah.
And it's one of those.
That's what people think.
Yeah. You write a will. Does it work? Are you planning to? Are you gonna die tomorrow?
Yep.
Or in the case of the African scenario, of course, we keep this to the UK. It's a case of, you have a will. So if I know what's in the will, and you might start some trouble, in case someone is excluded or someone is not, and stuff like that. But we are missing the point. The will is your expression. It's you having the authority to say, based on my situation at this moment in time, this is what I would like to happen. So it's no brainer what will is all about. We just need to help people to move away from counting down to your death sentence or something like that scenario, because that is the blocker I see a lot from a lot of our people. So it's got to be done, and the advantage is there. It's in your hand at that point in time who gets what. It's it's your will, these are your asset, your whatever it is you have, but put your I have a situation which am I going to?
Please.
Can I go now?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So a situation, not a client of mine, but I got to know about this case because the husband sadly passed away during the COVID, and then
Are these people from our community?
These people are, absolutely, from our community, I didn't know them from nowhere until the situation, of course, arose. So a client of mine introduced this the wife to me because the husband passed away during COVID. Property in Dublin. Is it Dublin or somewhere in Ireland? So two things: the wife doesn't know what the assets were.
Yeah.
So I had to filter through bank statement to try to identify what I think are financial product or what these payments are for. Pass the information back to her to make contact. And in the end, so there was insurance which she wouldn't know how to go about because she doesn't know an insurance exists. Again, the insurance wasn't placed in trust. One of the things I bang on about. And the property as well, because there was no will, then the probate system, which is identifying who you are, bring your this, bring your that. And that all costs money in the end. So
and time and
time
and just emotional turmoil. Like, I've just lost my husband and I have to do this nonsense when it could have just been a bang bang and you know.
Yeah, and the only way she found out about that was the bank started writing to the property to say, well, she had access to everything as the next of kin, but then the questions start arising and banks start writing to say mispayment and what it was. So yeah.
Yep. So the reasons why we should consider having a will is, first of all, just to keep things simple for when we go away. For this is how I want my assets to be split, or let's not use asset, let's use simple English. This is how I want my money to be spent. All right. Give 10% to this charity if you want. Give 20% to my wife. Give 20% to this. This is how I want it done. That way, you know how your money will be spent, and you've written it in clear, simple English, in law, right? And secondly, it's around that point you made around asset identification is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of couples, and this is not even, we're even also talking about middle income couple, like couples that are doing financially well. The wife doesn't necessarily know everything the man is getting involved in, and vice versa. Especially in most cases, is what the men are getting involved in. Men are making moves, financial moves, and they are not doing it out of spite. They are just making moves without necessarily documenting it for the wife. They're like, okay, this is good for the family. Boom, 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 and then boom, the man dies. The wife has no idea what stocks is invested in. Well, and you know, just as you said, they either miss some of those things, or you have to go through a painstaking process of trying to identify it. And as you said, it costs money, it costs time, and there's the emotional turmoil. So those are some of the two reasons why we need to have a will. And I'm sure for our listeners, they're probably thinking, writing a will must take a lot of effort and must be so expensive, getting a lawyer. So do you want to maybe demystify that for us?
Absolutely no. And one thing I should say is, writing a will doesn't mean, of course, when first, you need to seek a legal advice before you decide on what kind of will is going to be best for you, and at what stage of life as well, because some of them give you the ability to be able to change things as life progresses, remove hard and whatnot. And it doesn't cost money. It costs. You have a lot of charities that probably do it offer the services for free. And we also have, you might, depending on what you want to do, but 200, 300 pounds sometimes on average. I have a colleague that I work with, depending on the level, but it's around 250. Okay. And you have charities, and I believe there is a campaign, government sponsor, a charity sponsor, that you can actually tap into to have your will done. Yeah.
Okay. So it's accessible.
Very.
It's not for a certain group of people. It's for all of us.
No.
All right.
Very
fantastic.
accessible. Yeah.
So will is a very good one. And thank you very much for sharing that. So the next one I was going to jump into was life insurance. So again, there's that taboo around, if you're taking life insurance, then are you planning to die? And it's interesting. So I'll just put it out there. I've got life insurance. All right. And I grew up in Nigeria as well, but then I'm strange. Maybe I'm strange in a way. I'm not too bogged down by what maybe some other people are bogged down by. I'm just a very logical type guy.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, right, if anything happens, and I joke with my wife as well. I'm like, listen, if anything should happen to me today, you're gonna be this XXX amount richer. You know. But then nobody sees it that way. It's not funny for some people. For some people, it's almost like you're inviting trouble by going. Taking life insurance. So first of all, tell us, what is life insurance? What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for basically putting the hammer on the nail, as they say. So life insurance is all about taking responsibility. So you have people that depend on you for financial support. That could be your children, your partner, whoever looks up to you, whoever your daily bread, whoever you cater for on a daily basis. You want to ensure that in the event of you dying, they're gonna be okay until some certain stage of their life. You cannot insure, everything. Yeah. So you want to calculate, okay, by the time you finish university education, be it a master's or whatever, I want to make sure before, if anything happens to me, we have this property, for example, we are living a good life right now. If either of us were to pass away, I want to make sure the house still remains.
Yep.
It's all about responsibility, and that's how we have to look at it.
Okay.
There is no point breaking your back to create a good lifestyle, but you are not thinking about what if.
Yep.
The thing is, we're all gonna die. It's
Yep.
a matter of when.
Yep.
So you might as well do what you can now.
Yep. And it's interesting. So we hosted. So I'm the founder of Black Professionals United Kingdom, and we hosted a financial type event a few years ago, just again talking about these types of this sort of topic. And I remember clearly, when we're pushing the events for people to book, this guy called me. So this guy has a PhD, so clever, maybe more clever than the average person. And he called and said, "So, see this life insurance thing. So, what you're telling me to do is to pay every month. And what if I don't die before the end of the term? Do I get my money back?" And it really shocked me. And then that sort of made me realize the level of lack of knowledge of what these products are and what they can do for you. Because it's an insurance, right? Insurance is in case you're open. In fact, insurance is something you're open, you never have to use.
Exactly.
So it's almost like, if you look at it from a logical point of view, you're like, it's money I want to waste. I know it's a weird one, because once you trigger an insurance, that means something bad has happened to you. So you're open. It's something you're putting away on the basis of you never get to use it. But anyway, I think I
yeah, and your question, I mean, that question, I get that every single day. So what if nothing happens to me, and you are trying to make logic of £10 every month over 20 years, £10 every £120 a year.
About 20 years, that's 2,400.
2,400 for a benefit of 200,000. So you want to, 200,000 if something happened to you. And remember, I cited
all the other benefits.
Like
and second opinion.
Yeah, and also the client, she only had to pay for insurance for 4 months before she made the claim. So you cannot. The benefit always outweighs if you understand it.
And how are you doing? Because you must have these conversations a lot. How do you think you're faring around? I don't want to use the word convert. Around getting people to get it. Do you think you're getting most and more than most, or are most of them coming, listening and saying, "Thank you very much, let me go think about it," and they sort of disappear?
Yeah, I'm doing better now. Okay. Let me put it that way, because I understand how the 99% of my client base are the Black communities, which I'm very grateful for, and that those were my target market anyway, and those were it's because of them I'm in this life insurance business, because I want to ensure the understanding is there. If you don't understand it, you're not going to do it. So you don't buy what you don't believe in. So the conversion is pretty good, but it takes a long process. So we discuss what it is, let them go and sleep over it, and then we come back to it. The conversion is good. Not everybody takes the policy. Some, it might be months, sometimes years, and
sometimes life situation happens where they're like, that was close.
Panic
I remember what Stephen said.
Panic buy. I get that. I get that a lot. We are going to something locally right now that triggered the conversation again. But again, it's good to have that emotional buy. But then I don't want you to wake up a year from now and say, "Wait, what's this again?" We want to go through the education aspect of it before you do it. So yeah.
Listen, Stephen. Well done for what you're doing, because I know you're not just in this to make money. You're in this to actually, support people and put them in a better place. And I'm sure there are people that are already benefiting from that, to try with the life insurance. And, something that really makes me sad within our community, and I'm not trying to paint anyone bad, is when someone passes away. And some of these people are people you look at and you would say, these people are good earners, husband and wife, or partners, or whatever you want to label we want to use for them. And maybe one of them passes away suddenly, and there's this bucket being passed around for everyone to contribute. It really saddens me, because I'm thinking, why are we passing buckets around? Why don't these people have a £10 a month insurance? Because then it saves all of us having to pass this bucket round.
Yeah.
And even because if you're passing bucket round, there's still a bit of, you're putting yourself out there. You don't have to put yourself out there. You know, all people have to tell you is, oh, we're very sorry for your loss. You manage your finances, and people think, wow, they've got everything under control. You know, so hopefully we'll get to that point where when people pass away, buckets are not being passed around, or where we need to fly them back home, so everybody needs to cough out money. Because I'm thinking, if they know, because we need to be having some tough conversations, right, with our partners around, if anything should happen to me, and I have to say this as well, even my wife doesn't like this conversation, but I'm like, we're having it. Like, if anything happens to me, this is where I want you to bury me, and all that, because then that helps you with gives you clarity, like, okay, this is what this person wants, so if anything happens, this is what we need to do. Because some people are being, a lot of money is being raised to take some people back home, when if those people were alive, if those people were alive, they'll be like, just bury me here. Why do you have to raise 20k 20k that you can use to maybe send, do something really, really good? So it's just it's breaking down that taboo, and having those conversations naturally, where you're having coffee and you're saying, you know what, if anything happens to me, just FYI, this is what I want you to do, and then just continue having coffee like it's normal. We need to normalize those conversations, and not see it as we are inviting trouble. All right. We still have 3 to go, so I'll smash through them quickly. So the other one, I mean, we've covered life insurance, which is, should I say, the big one. Then there are the other insurances you can potentially have as well. I know there's a lot of them, so you can quickly run through a few for us very quickly, and I'll interrupt you, and then we can go to the next one.
Okay. I mean, life insurance is good to start from that, because that's the big name that everybody seems to know. And when customer come to me for advice, all you hear is, I want life insurance. But then as a professional and looking after my customer, you go through what we call a fact finding to try to establish, okay, do you really need life insurance or some other things? Because so product available, you have life insurance, and the way I always try to define that for easy understanding is money for your dependents when you die. So that has nothing,
you never benefit from your life insurance
directly. You will be at peace wherever you are, knowing that they are okay, but not for you. Then you have what is called critical illness cover. This one covers one, according to the Cancer Research UK, 1 in 2 will be 1 in 2 adults will have cancer in their lifetime. So you have critical illness cover, which cover extensively cancer, stroke, heart attack, and multiple sclerosis. And the list goes on and on, but those are the 4 key ones. This one is money for you whilst alive. You suffer cancer, for example, or stroke, you don't need to worry about your how you're going to continue to run your show or meeting your rent or mortgage. Talking about referring again to that client earlier, she's still alive, and I'm so happy for her. But money about repaying her mortgage is no longer an issue. So then you have that critical illness cover, which could also cover your children. Then you have what is called income protection. That one, it's your holding, it's your bank, is your own private bank. So you decide if you are to be off work due to illness or injury, how much money you want back. So a proportion of your salary that covers. It's just your own cash machine. You go there every month, you press the button, and gives you your own salary proportion of that. You have private medical insurance, which has always been there, usually popular within the corporate or businesses to do for employer. But now individuals are taking this up. That one helps you, talking about the case of my friend earlier. Sadly, if he had something like private medical insurance, all his health issues, diagnoses, surgery, treatment could have been covered and taken care of. So those are the 4 key products I'm leaving out there. Of course, there are many more. Life insurance, critical illness cover, income protection, private medical insurance, tailored to everybody's need.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And, you know, if you've heard any of that and you're thinking, Steven ran through that very quickly, I don't understand it, you can Google it and you can get better understanding of what exactly they do, what exactly the benefits are, and why you should potentially look to get some of these things. And not all these products are for everyone.
Yeah.
So it depends where you are, what stage you are in your life, and maybe that's when sometimes people need advice around, based on where you are in your life. These are the if your budget is £10, then this is the main one you should get based on your budget, and folks can get advice around that, right? And the next one I wanted us to cover was pension. Even when I started my career, I'll use myself as an example. I was like, nah, not putting any money in any pension. Give me all my money. So I wasn't putting anything in until I can't remember when I switched. And that was me in financial services. I was an accountant and I had that thinking. So I understand why a lot of people have that thinking. And I get that some people just want to pull out all their money, send it back to Africa to build a house and all that. That's good. However, I think there's also something around sort of edging your bet and sort of spreading your wings and your investments as well, diversifying. So pension, what is pension and why should we be putting money in it?
Well, I think I was speaking to my own, because I also have to have a financial advisor that looks after me. Just like doctors, you don't want to always prescribing things for yourself. You want someone else to have a second opinion on you. So one of the big advantage of pension, again, you are preparing for when you cannot do your daily run around anymore. So something for later. And one of the big incentive for that is actually the fact that for every pound you contribute, the government had 25 pence to it. So it's a win-win in any way, and it's part of being responsible and planning for later. And we should consider, if you are self-employed, sole trader, whatever you are, if something you want to look into, get a good advice around it, and it's not going to break your bank. Again, you are saving for later, and with interest or with increase on it. It's not going to remain the same, because these funds are invested and depend on if you are using a pension extract or you are doing it yourself, it should be yielding something over time. So it's absolutely no-brainer. We just need to move away from where most of us, Africa, I'm sure it's not only Africa, but I'm from Africa, so I can speak to that, Nigeria specifically. Most of these financial products, we do not have the right information or understanding or appreciation of them. And some of us, it's been a bad experience. Like, we know businesses back in Nigeria that probably started pension, trust, and whatnot, and went bust. And nobody responsible for anything. So, but we are in a different terrain where there are regulatory bodies in place, and get good advice. It's all about you. Get good advice and take the right decision.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'll add something there as well, and maybe you can buttress. I'm just speeding up now. There's also the kids pension.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and I got to know about this a few years ago, and my financial advisor friend was painting some numbers to me, and he said, if you put this in every month, that money is going to grow for 60 years. I'm sure by the time our kids are retiring, they'll be retiring in their 80s. So, yeah. By the time we are retiring, it's probably going to be in our 70s. So our kids probably be in their 80s. So if you think of that money growing for 80 years, when your kid is retiring, a £5 a month or even £3 a month is going to be gigantic. And you can play with these numbers online as well to see, we put £3 a month into a pension for the next, I don't know, so number of years. That will grow. That will be something that your kid, it won't hurt you, but your kid will be very grateful to you for. Imagine you retiring 20 years from now, and your dad has been putting money in your pension since you were born. That is something huge. So again, that's something for people to think about. Kids pension.
Absolutely.
It's not popular. A lot of people don't talk about it, but I think it's something we should sort of jump in as well. And the last one is mortgages. So I mean, it's not, should I say it's not a financial protection product or whatever, but at the same time, it is in a way as well. It's part of your portfolio, isn't it? So anyway, quickly run us through what a mortgage is, and
So mortgages are you becoming a landlord, put it that way, in our language. So you are getting a loan from the bank to buy a house where you can call yours. You don't need to worry about your rent going up. You can relax and make the property what you want. So that is pretty much mortgage, securing a loan against a property in this case. So, and the stages to go through, you want me? Well,
no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's just for people to know what a mortgage is, and again, there is misconception when you speak to people sometimes where they say, oh, that means I'll be in debt for 30 years, I'll be a debtor. And again, it's breaking that barrier, that mentality of debt is good sometimes. Again, coming from Africa or coming from, where we've come from, debt is not necessarily good because of, again, the conception around you being a debtor. But then in this country and, the Western world is run on debt. The richest men in the world are massive debtors. They've got billions of debts. So we need to change our mindset around embracing debt and using it for something good, like a mortgage. And as long as you're using it for those right things, you save up 10K, you take it to the bank gives you 190K, you go get 200K house. That's an asset. But taking money to buy a car, so from an accountant's point of view, it is an asset. But from a real world point of view, it's an expense. All right. So again, it's around getting our people into that mindset of what a mortgage could do for them.
To nail that down, what I say too, because I have this conversation a lot, like just exactly what you said, being in debt for so long, I don't like this. And to bring this home, if you are renting for the next 2 years, the day you leave that house, you leave with nothing apart from whatever you take in. If you buy a property and 2 years time you're selling that property, not only the money you put in, if all things being equal, the money you've paid over that 2 years, you will get a proportion of it back. You're paying interest as well. So
and it's win-win.
Appreciation
as well.
Worst case scenario, you go away with your money and the
minimum.
You've put in. So from nothing over 2 years renting to walking away with something.
Absolutely. This has been. I knew I was going to really enjoy this show because I don't know, maybe because I'm a numbers guy. And it's something that has really it bugs me when I have conversations with people and there's this lack of understanding, lack of education within the community. And I know you've done a lot of work. You've done this type of thing a lot, going on shows, going on podcasts, going to events and just educating. But I think as you call yourself a community man, you just cannot get weary. You just have to keep pushing that message, push it to people over and over and over again until you sink some. Because once you get the parents in, that's it. Everybody's sorted because then they're going to pass the information to their kids and then it's generational. But if we can't get those parents in, then, they'll pass the misinformation to their kids and it's generational. So we just need to keep pushing until break that stronghold at this generation so that the next generation can benefit from, all these products and all these benefits that, that everybody else in the country is benefiting from. All right. I was speaking to a neighbor of mine, and he said his son, who was then 6 years old, he mentioned some ridiculous amount of money that he had in his ISA. Because again, they had the benefits where there were lots of grandparents that were just dumping money there for fun. When they had nothing to do, just dump £100 there and whatever. So when this kid gets to 18 years old, it's probably about 100K rich.
Absolutely.
And your son or your daughter is coming into 18 with nothing. So think of
landing.
how, and then they are now beginning to save for a deposit. When down is just, they've bought him or her the first flat. And the people that do these things are not necessarily the richest people.
No.
They're just modest. I mean, not modest, they're just astute with money. They've got good financial planning. They speak to people like you, Stephen. They get guidance from you. They speak to other people that think in a similar way around how can we make sure we land well. All right. We enjoy today financially. We enjoy tomorrow as well.
I was speaking to my accountant early this year, and it told me that the amount of money in his son's ISA
is gonna blow me away.
It's
phenomenal.
His son is richer than his son is maybe about 6. His son is richer than him when he was even 20 years old. Because you start these things earlier, and it doesn't break your back.
It doesn't because if you have that mindset, or if you make it a discipline, like we put that away. That's it. That's just less money to spend on coffee or biscuits or those things. And, because when people think of these things we're talking about, they're probably thinking 100 quid, 200 quid. No, we're talking 5 quid, 3 quid, 10 quid here and there. And then it makes a big difference for you, your partner, your children, and whoever is a dependent of yours, even your parents, it could be, So thank you very much. Really enjoyed that. So some people are probably listening to this and thinking, I need to speak with Stephen. I need to book time with Stephen, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always there, hovering around.
Fantastic.
And we
and your name on LinkedIn is Stephen Babatunde.
Absolutely.
On LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah.
Where else can we find
Instagram, you can find me on Instagram as Stephen Babs, and also Vivid Financial Solution, which is my company. It's also on LinkedIn, Vivid Financial Solutions, Instagram, Facebook, and our website as well at www.vividfinancialsolutions.co.uk.
So you can be found everywhere.
Almost everywhere. And you can hook me up physically on the street.
Yeah, exactly. You can find me on the street. Any events where there's a lot of black people, Stephen is likely going to be there. And are you coming to the Black Scottish Awards?
Absolutely.
There
you know there
you go. So but yeah, it's been a pleasure. And to wrap the show, we have a culture or tradition here where we get the current hosts to leave an advice for the next host without necessarily knowing, not even without necessarily knowing, without knowing who they are. Just leave life advice from your own, what you've learned so far. So our last guest left an advice for you, and the advice is take care of your mental health. All right. And this is not, they don't know you. That's just the advice they're leaving, because you have to, you need to take time to actually look after it. You need to be intentional about it. Don't just leave it to happenstance. All right. So for you, for our next guest, what advice have you got?
Take the chance.
Take the chance.
Take the chance. If it's good enough, it's good. Just take the chance. You find out at the other side.
Fantastic. And why that? That's very succinct. Is that your life story?
Yeah, that's what we've spoken about. It's just my life story. I engineering to finance. Sorry, who's writing that? But here I am. Take the chance. Speak to people, of course, calculated. We started from just don't go blind. Do your homework. And 2 years in making. It might take you less or longer. But
it's interesting. It's interesting. We don't line these things up, but sometimes they do line up well. Our last guest as well, we're talking about, again, business and failure. And one of the advice she left for folks looking to maybe start but are scared of failure is do your research. Don't just think, how you had that experience and you could have gone, I'm going to fix that. I'm sure a lot of people have this problem. I'm going in. And that could have been disastrous, but you took your time. You did the research. You spoke to your uncle down south. You really understood what the challenge was. You understood the market you're going into. And then you went in prepared. You're like, what? I think I can do this. I'm going in. So, that message that you both have shared is very aligned, even though you're talking about two different things. So it's fantastic. And that is everything we have for today. Thank you very much for joining us today on The Moment with Sade and Enoch. We've been speaking to Stephen Babatunde of Vivid Financial Solutions about how we can plan for the future financially, how we can ensure that, we're trying to make the most of today financially, but also prepare for tomorrow such that if anything was to happen to us, even if nothing happens to us, we are okay financially. Those depending on us are okay financially. Thank you very much, Stephen. And that is everything we have time for today. Until next time, it's been me, Enoch, on The Moment with Sade and Enoch Show. Thank you.